Warning signs mimic those of dehydration, including confusion, disorientation, muscle weakness, and vomiting. Those are all true for hyponatremia, not true for dehydration, just so you know. To help maintain blood sodium levels, consume sport drink rather than plain water on runs over an hour. Don't drink water because you might get hyponatremia. You'll dilute the system. Drink sports drink, we got sodium in it. Dilutes the system, doesn't dilute it, right? Adding sodium back in. You cannot drink any solution that has the same concentration as our body fluid. If you drank ocean water, which still isn't the same, you would throw up immediately. Sports drink still dilute the system, period. Okay? Some of this is true, some of it's not. What does somebody get out of this? I don't want to get hyponatremia. I'm not going to drink water. I'm going to drink Gatorade. Right? Consumer marketing at its best. Love it. Go ahead. All right, I'm going to try to speed up and get it done. Hyponatremia. This is when people start dying. All right? This is what people weren't even looking for 10 years ago. On the ambulance, in emergency rooms, everywhere. Hyponatremia wasn't even looked at. If someone came in, passed out at an event, immediately thought it was dehydration. They weren't looking for what is. They were looking for what should be. It should be dehydration. Why? Because all these people were being fed the same stuff. Many people that had hyponatremia were misdiagnosed as being dehydrated and given liters and liters of liquid, which killed them and died in the hospital. There's not one reported death, documented death, due to dehydration in endurance sports. Not one. There are more than 10 reported deaths of hyponatremia-associated disease since 2001. Okay? What hyponatremia is basically when your sodium level gets diluted down below 135. So when that gets too low, the balance between the extracellular, intercellular volume gets screwed up. More water starts pouring into the cell. What does the cell do at that point in time? Swells. Not too bad in my hands. My fingers swell, not a big deal. The cells I'm really worried about, brain cells. Some of you have been reported to have swollen heads. But the last I checked, your skull cannot expand from what it is. And if your brain starts to swell inside of that skull, what happens? It pushes out the base of the skull and you die. This happens from overhydration. This happens from taking too much liquid into your body. This happens when the sodium concentration gets lower. Does that happen when I don't drink? Does that happen when I become dehydrated? When dehydration is defined as total body water loss, I'm losing body water and my concentration of sodium increases. Hyponatremia is the opposite. Hyponatremia is when that sodium decreases too low. All right? That's what's killing people. Misdiagnosing dehydration. This person's dehydrated. Let's give them water. Not the case. Most of these people are dying in the hospital. In the actual hospital. Out of assumption. Is it Gatorade's fault? No. They have something to do with it, but it's not their fault. All right? You can go ahead and turn. Here's our myths again. Go ahead right to the first one. You can switch it. In order to ensure optimal performance and to survive endurance events, one must replace all lost fluids. All right, here's what science says. Fluid and weight loss during endurance events is normal, if not optimal. Studies of top performance endurance events typically demonstrate weight loss ranging from 2 upward to 8% and higher. Weight loss was correlated in these studies, and conversely, weight gain is correlated to impaired performance, and in most cases, clinical sign of hyponatremia, exercise-associated hyponatremia, EAHS, EAH. Okay? The person who wins the marathon is the most dehydrated, just so you know. Okay? He lost the most body weight. If we weighed them all at the end, he won. All right? Sugar in the form of glucose in the liver and the muscle glycogen is stored with surrounding water. So your carbohydrate stores in your body, surrounded with water. All right? When that sugar's burned, the water leaves it and hydrates us. That's the water that we're expelling out. We're expelling out this water. We're not expelling out the water inside our blood. We're not expelling the water inside of our cells. We're expelling out the 14 liters of liquid that's just hanging out. 14 liters. Talking about 28 pounds, just so we're going to work out the quick math. Significant volumes of fluid loss during exercise come from extracellular. I just talked about that. All right. So, basically, the study is saying that 70–80% of the fluid that we do lose, studies have shown, is from this extracellular fluid, not from plasma, not from inside our cells. All right. Go ahead and turn it. We all agree with that myth? We're all good with that? Okay. We must drink water in order to prevent heat illness during exercise in hot conditions. We've all been told this one, and we all believe this one. I believed this one up until like 6 months ago, and after I convinced myself that it was a myth, I had to actually go back and look at it again after running like in August. I was like, this can't be true. But science has shown me over and over, there's no relationship between fluid intake and hydration and the incidence of heat exhaustion or heat stroke. The only correlate to core temperature is your running pace. If you run faster, you have a higher risk of a heat illness. Why does our body produce heat? How does our body produce heat? Through energy, right? If I run faster, I'm producing more energy. I create a higher body temperature. Anyone running really that fast in a marathon? Even if you run a marathon really fast, 2 hours, that person's half marathon pace is still faster. 100-meter dash, still faster. Okay? Volumes of research. Athletes across all sports. There is not a single study that demonstrates a difference in core temperature between athletes who drink and those who do not. Not a single study. Not one. Okay? Nor has there been any evidence that links heat exhaustion or stroke to high levels of fluid loss, sodium loss, or the act of stopping sweating. I stopped sweating at an Ironman 2 years ago. My first initial thought is I'm overheating. I'm going to overheat. I can't sweat. I'm going to overheat. This is one of the reasons it spurred me to start researching this so much. Not one single study shows that sweating, this stopping of sweating is going to increase your chance of actually having heat exhaustion. Okay? The only behavioral factor that influences core body temperature during exercise, again, is pace. You create energy. Basically, what's going to happen? You get hot. Point blank. The athlete who ran fastest, one, had the highest body temperature. They studied it. Marathoners came across, renal temperature, rectal temperature, right there, bang. They got that too. Metal something. All right? But they actually tested it. The guys who were running faster had a higher body temperature. Simple. Only 8 documented causes of heat stroke during endurance events since 1905. We are in 2012, people. 400,000 people completed a marathon in the US alone in 2008. 8 documented cases of heat illness in a marathon. You are more likely to find heat illness happening in a 100-meter dash, 200-meter dash, track and field events. Those numbers, much higher. Not an issue. Hydration has nothing to do with it. You're not becoming dehydrated in a 200-meter sprint. We can all agree on that. But you can die from a heat stroke.
Those incidents were all when the external temperature was really high.
Yes, they were all extreme heat conditions. And people, all 8 of these instances, people had some sort of deficiency. They were not healthy individuals. They did not possess the same biological controls that we all have. Okay? Yes. Yes. Go ahead and turn. This is my favorite one. Triathletes buy everything. Sodium, sodium, sodium. Sodium. I'm on a ride this weekend. I was telling a guy about my race a couple weeks ago. So I started to crap out. He's like, did you take sodium pills? Took salt pills, didn't you? Travis is like, oh, God. God, you had to ask him that? Like, there I go for an hour tirade. All right, you need to take it. What does science say? We already talked about it. Body self-regulates blood sodium concentration. When one drinks to thirst, the blood sodium concentration will rise. During prolonged events, it never falls. I never have to worry about low sodium. I never need to take a salt pill. Why? Because when I sweat, the concentration is just getting higher. I just don't take salt, don't drink. The concentration is just going to get higher. You don't need to take sodium in. You just do not need to. Only do you need to take sodium in is if you are forcing water down your throat, which all of us now understand. We tell our clients, drink when you're thirsty. Don't drink on a schedule. Drink when you're thirsty. If you drink on a schedule, you can become hyponatremic. And then would sodium pills help? Yeah, they would. All right? So this industry has started selling sodium pills for an overhydration issue. Don't sell me a product to fix an overhydration issue. Just stop telling me to drink. All right? Really that simple. All right? Go ahead and change it. Sodium supplementation stops and prevents muscle-associated cramping. No scientific evidence whatsoever that sodium loss will have a working muscle cramp. If you have a complete sodium loss, you might have full body cramping, but it will not be a working muscle cramp. Basically, what everyone's looking at now in the industry is it's neurological fatigue. That there's a miscommunication between your muscle spindles and your Golgi tendon organs getting confused up here. They're not being touched to shut off. Muscle spasm occurs. Neurological fatigue. Want to correct it? Take some caffeine. Okay? Neurological fatigue. You're pushing too hard. The whole idea of muscle cramping sodium was based on a 1920 miner doing the Hoover Dam. I have a whole blog about it. Pick up my card, worklivetry.com, read it. More in depth. All right? But I promise you, sodium has nothing to do with you cramping. Next one. My urine's going to tell me if I'm dehydrated or not. The presence of excessive antidiuretic hormone during exercise refers to the syndrome of inappropriate ADH secretion. This can cause an overt fluid retention, resulting in concentration or complete lack of urine, despite severe overhydration. Do we have to worry about becoming hyponatremic if we're a healthy individual? No, we do not, because our body will not become thirsty. All right? Or we'll start expelling out through pee. You're doing the marathon, you're stopping every 2 miles to pee. All right? If you're an unhealthy individual, there's something wrong biologically, and you have the syndrome of inappropriate ADH secretion, which means that your body inappropriately produces this antidiuretic hormone, even though you're hydrating yourself like crazy, your body's releasing this hormone to say retain, retain, retain. You're not peeing a single lick, and you're still drinking, drinking, drinking. What are you doing? You're diluting your sodium levels. You're becoming hyponatremic. Okay? A study, how many people have this? Is it common? 13% of Boston marathoners in a 2002 study had this syndrome. 13%. That's a high number. Those 13% of the people are at risk of dropping dead from drinking too much water if they're following the guidelines set out in front of them to drink 40 ounces an hour. They're going to die. If you have this syndrome and you do not force feed water into you, you will not be thirsty. You won't die. If you follow stupid guidelines, that are put out there by consumer, not consumer, but by sports drink manufacturers, you're going to die.